Emery stood at the front of the small village hall, her hands shaking inside the sleeves of a thrift store wedding dress. The lace was old, a little yellow, and too tight around her ribs, making it hard to breathe. But it wasn't the dress that scared her. It was the life being forced on her. Her father gripped her arm so tightly she could feel his nails digging into her skin. He kept whispering, "Do this for the family. Don't make a scene." She didn't want to marry. Not today. Not ever like this. But the debt collectors had come last week, shouting at their door. Her father had promised them repayment soon, and this marriage was his desperate solution. Emery had no choice. At least, that's what everyone kept telling her. When the doors opened, Liam walked in. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't proud. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. His clothes were clean but simple. Plain shirt, old shoes, hair slightly messy as if he had walked through wind. The whispers started the moment people saw him. That's him. Poor thing. No money, no status. Why would anyone marry him? He's the poorest man in Brookside. Emery felt the words stab at her. So this is my future. Ruined before it even begins. She kept her eyes on the floor, refusing to look at him. She hated him before he even stood beside her. Not because of who he was, but because of what this moment meant for her life. She wanted freedom, a chance to find her own path. Instead, she was being tied to a stranger for the sake of her father's mistakes. The ceremony felt like a blur. Voices echoed around her, but none of them felt real. She only heard the cold, sharp beating of her own heart. She tried not to cry. Her father would get angry if she did. When Liam finally stood close, she noticed something odd. He didn't look confused or weak like the rumors claimed. His eyes were calm, too calm, like someone who knew more than he was letting on. Just before the vows, he leaned slightly toward her and whispered, quietly enough that only she could hear, "I promise. I'm not what they say I am." She stiffened. What was that supposed to mean? A joke? A warning? A lie? She ignored him. She had no space in her heart for mystery or hope. But those simple words were going to change everything. Emery grew up in a small, broken house on the edge of Brookside. Money was always short, and so were moments of peace. Her parents argued almost every night, loud voices, breaking dishes, doors slammed so hard the walls shook. Emery would hide under her thin blanket, wishing she could disappear into some other life. She had dreams once, big ones. She wanted to finish school, get a job in the city, and take her mother away from all the noise and stress. But when her father's debts started piling up, those dreams slowly slipped out of her hands. Instead of studying, she worked small jobs in town. Instead of saving for college, she helped pay for electricity, water, and food. Responsibility became her shadow, following her everywhere. When debt collectors began showing up at their door, her father became desperate. He stopped looking at Emery as his daughter, and started seeing her as the only way out. Her wedding, forced and painful, was just another result of his mistakes. Everyone in town had opinions about Liam, the man she married. People whispered that he had been abandoned as a child. Some said he grew up homeless, moving from place to place. Others claimed he never spoke unless necessary, keeping his past a secret. He was quiet, polite, and kept his head down. No one really knew him, but the rumors shaped him into someone people pitied or avoided. After the wedding, Emery moved into a tiny shack with him. The roof leaked when it rained, and the walls were thin enough that cold winds slid right through. She hated it at first. She felt trapped, angry, and cheated out of the life she wanted. She kept her distance from Liam, barely speaking except when necessary. But Liam surprised her. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't demand anything from her. He cooked simple meals, fixed broken things around the house, and always left space for her. His gentleness confused her. She expected someone rough, someone careless, someone like her father. Instead, she found someone who apologized when he bumped into a chair, and thanked her just for washing a plate. Still, curiosity fought with resentment inside her. Sometimes she watched him quietly when he didn't notice. There was something strange about him. Something that didn't match the image of a poor, ordinary man. His manners were too perfect, like he had been taught by someone important. When he spoke, his vocabulary was surprisingly sharp and precise. Once, Emery saw him reading a business magazine, something she didn't expect him to understand, but he flipped through it like it was familiar. Then there was the watch. He kept it hidden in a small wooden box. Emery caught a glimpse of it once. Shiny, heavy, and definitely expensive. It didn't belong in a shack. It didn't belong to a man the town called the poorest in Brookside. Every small clue made her wonder, who exactly did I marry? The moment the story truly began, Emery slipped out of their tiny shack before dawn. She had tied her hair back roughly and wrapped a thin scarf around her shoulders, hoping no one would notice. Her plan was simple: take the bus to the city and find any job she could. Anything to earn her own money. Anything to feel some control over her life again. The streets were colder than she remembered, and the city smelled different. Smoke, food, and people rushing everywhere. Emery moved quickly, trying not to get caught, but as she passed a tall glass building she froze. Through the reflective windows, she saw a man who looked exactly like Liam. Except it wasn't just him. He was standing in the middle of a room full of sharply dressed men in suits, talking confidently, pointing at papers and giving instructions. Emery's heart stopped. The words she caught made no sense at first. They were business terms, names of companies, numbers too large to imagine. One of the men stepped forward and said, "Sir, we'll follow your orders immediately." Emery's knees nearly gave out. Sir? Orders? Who is he really? She didn't wait. She ran back to confront him, her mind racing. When Liam returned to the shack that evening, she didn't hold back. Who were those men? And why did they call you sir? She demanded. Liam's expression stayed calm. It's nothing you need to worry about, he said simply. Just forget what you saw today. But Emery couldn't. That night, as they were settling down, she heard a strange noise outside. Men were whispering at the edge of the shack, and shadows moved under the thin walls. Liam grabbed her hand. Hide, he said urgently, pulling her behind the cupboard. From there, Emery could hear their voices clearly. We're losing patience. Come back to the board before things get worse. One man said, frustration heavy in his tone. Liam's voice was firm, unafraid. I'm not coming. Not now. Not ever, he replied. Emery pressed herself into the corner, heart pounding. She had never seen this side of him before. Strong, commanding, dangerous even. And suddenly, everything she thought she knew about her husband crumbled. She realized in that moment, Liam wasn't just a simple man from Brookside. He was connected to something powerful, something she didn't understand yet. And she had just stepped into a life far more complicated than she had ever imagined. Escalation, betrayal, and unraveling secrets filled Emery's days. She stayed silent, moving around the shack with careful distance, pretending not to notice Liam. Inside, her heart was a storm. She felt betrayed. He had lied to her, hidden his life, and she didn't know who he really was. Every gentle gesture, every kind word he gave her now felt like part of a mask. Liam noticed the coldness, of course. He tried to reach her, to protect her in small ways, cooking meals, repairing the roof after the last storm, covering her chores, but he never explained anything. Every time she asked, he would simply shake his head or give her a faint smile, leaving her with more questions than answers. Then her father returned. He had been away collecting debts, but now he came demanding money. Emery felt her stomach tighten. She had been scared of him all these years, and now he was here again, trying to control her life. Without a word, Liam quietly paid the money, handing over bills that left Emery stunned. She realized he had resources far beyond what she had imagined, and that unsettled her even more. A few days later, while cleaning the small shack, Emery found a folder tucked behind a loose floorboard. Inside were documents bearing the name, Liam Drake Holdings. Her eyes widened as she read more. Connections to companies, financial charts, and letters addressed to Mr. Drake. Her mind raced. $1 billion corporation? Liam? This couldn't be the quiet man she had married. When she confronted him again, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. I didn't want you involved, he admitted, his voice low. My family, it's complicated. I ran away because of corruption and betrayal. I couldn't trust them anymore. Emery felt trapped. None of this was her choice. She had married to escape debt, not to be part of some hidden empire. The weight pressed down on her chest. She wanted to run, but she couldn't. The shack now felt smaller, more suffocating than ever. The next week brought more chaos. Paparazzi started sniffing around the town, cameras flashing as they tried to find the couple. Emery's father saw a chance and sold her location to a tabloid, taking cash in exchange for destroying any last shred of trust between him and his daughter. One night, Liam sat her down, his eyes serious. "There's more you need to know," he said. He explained that he was the rightful heir to a vast family dynasty, but that someone wanted him dead. He had hidden everything to keep her safe, to keep her out of danger, and now it was impossible to stay quiet. Emery listened, stunned. Every lie, every secret, every careful smile of Liam's made sense now. And yet, she felt a new fear rising. This life she had stumbled into wasn't just complicated. It was dangerous. She didn't know if she could trust anyone, and the world she had once hoped to escape had caught up with her in ways she never imagined. The family board stormed their small shack with security, breaking the quiet night. Emery froze as men in suits surrounded her, questions and accusations flying. They grabbed her roughly, dragging her toward a car for questioning. Fear surged through her. But even more than fear, anger bubbled up. Anger at her father, at the board, at the life she never chose. Liam pushed through the men, fighting to reach her. "Let her go," he shouted, but the board ignored him. Their eyes were sharp, cold. "You married him for money," one of them accused Emery, their tone full of judgment and contempt. "You manipulated him, and now you're trying to take over the empire." Emery's heart pounded, but something inside her shifted. She turned to them, stepping forward, voice steady despite the fear. "No. You're wrong. I never asked for this life, and he is nothing like what you say." Liam looked at her, a mixture of relief and surprise on his face. He took a deep breath, then finally told the full truth. "I left the empire because my own family orchestrated my mother's death. I married in secret to stay hidden from the board. Emery, she is the only part of my life untouched by all their corruption." The board froze, their accusations faltering as Emery absorbed the weight of his words. She felt a swell of pride and protectiveness rise inside her. "I believe him," she said firmly, looking each member in the eye. "And you won't take him away from me." They hesitated, unsure how to respond, but the security men moved to drag Liam away. Emery didn't step back. She planted her feet, lifted her chin, and stood in front of him. For the first time, she didn't feel small or powerless. She felt strong, unafraid, and ready to fight for the man she had come to care for. No, the man she now understood completely. In that moment, everything changed. Emery was no longer just a scared girl forced into marriage. She was a woman asserting her power, protecting the only person in her life who had ever been true to her. The board's control crumbled as she stood firm, unyielding, and ready to face whatever came next. Emery chose to stand beside Liam willingly this time. She no longer felt trapped or forced. She felt strong, and for the first time, she wanted to be part of his life, not because of fear or duty, but because she believed in him, and in herself. Liam returned to the family corporation, taking his rightful place at the head of the board. But he was different now. He did not want power for himself alone. He demanded reforms, cutting corruption, protecting workers, and making sure the company would be run fairly. Emery watched him carefully, impressed by his determination and honesty. Slowly, she began to heal too. She reached out to her mother, apologizing for the years of distance and misunderstanding. Her mother embraced her, tears in her eyes, and for the first time, Emery felt a sense of family she had almost forgotten. Her father, on the other hand, was left behind. She cut ties with him, refusing to be manipulated or controlled again. The corporation began to change under Liam's leadership. Greedy board members were replaced, policies became fairer, and the company slowly regained respect. Emery felt proud to witness the difference he was making, and she knew she wanted to help in her own way. She started a small initiative to support rural women, helping them find work and independence, teaching them to stand up for themselves like she had learned to do. Each woman she helped reminded her of her younger self, scared and trapped, and each success felt like a small victory over the past. And their marriage grew stronger. It was no longer about duty or money. It was rooted in trust, honesty, and care. They laughed together, shared dreams, and built a life side by side. Emery finally felt she was not just living someone else's story. She was writing her own, alongside Liam. For the first time in years, she felt free, safe, and powerful. The shack, the small town, even the whispers of the past seemed far away now. Emery had found her place, her voice, and her courage. And most importantly, She had found love. Not the kind forced on her, but the kind she had chosen. Every day, as she looked at Liam working beside her, she felt the weight of the past lift. The life she had once feared had become the life she wanted, and she knew she could face whatever came next, with strength and hope. Emery returned to her childhood village, but she was not the scared, small girl who had left years ago. She walked with her head held high, shoulders straight, and a quiet strength that drew the eyes of the villagers. The narrow dirt roads and familiar houses felt different now. Smaller, quieter, like they belonged to another life. As she passed the old schoolyard and the little house where she had grown up, she saw herself in memory, the frightened girl hiding from her father's anger, wishing for freedom, dreaming of a better life. Emery gave a soft, sad smile. She had walked through fear and pain, but now she carried courage instead. Liam waited a short distance away, sitting in the car they had bought together. His smile was gentle, full of pride and warmth, as if he had always known she would find her strength. Emery walked toward him, feeling the peace of knowing she was no longer alone in the world. She paused by the car window and whispered softly, almost to herself, "I finally know who I am." For a moment, everything was still. The village, the memories, the wind through the trees, all of it felt like it had been waiting for her to arrive, for her to step into the life she had chosen, not the life that had been forced on her. Liam reached for her hand, and together they drove slowly through the streets, past the people who had watched her grow, past the houses that had shaped her. Emery felt a deep, quiet joy, a sense of ending and beginning all at once. She realized that everything she had gone through, the fear, the forced marriage, the lies, the secrets, had led her here. It had made her stronger, wiser, and ready to live a life of her own choosing. And most of all, it had led her to love that was real, honest, and unshakable. As they drove away from the village, Emery whispered, smiling at Liam, "Sometimes the poorest marriage gives you the richest life." The words hung in the air, gentle but full of meaning. A quiet promise of the life they would build together. One of trust, courage, and a love that neither fear nor wealth could ever touch. Hi besties. Thanks so much for watching till the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.